There is something truly powerful about a woman covered by God's protection. She doesn't walk like everyone else. She doesn't speak like everyone else. She moves with quiet confidence, not out of arrogance, but from a deep, divine awareness. She knows she is not just a body passing through life. She is a vessel, a carrier of purpose. And because purpose is sacred, heaven assigns her protection. When God places his hand on a woman, he doesn't just bless her. He shields her. He builds an invisible wall between her and the things sent to destroy her. She doesn't always notice it in the moment, but it shows in the way certain people cannot remain in her life. Some leave. Some doors close. Conversations suddenly end. And while others call it chance, she knows it is the hand of her Father saying, "This one belongs to me." But this woman is not naive. She is discerning. She sees beyond charm, hears beyond compliments. She can sit in a room full of smiling faces and instantly sense the one holding a knife behind their back. But she doesn't rush to expose it. She doesn't panic, she prays. She watches. Because when God protects a woman, he gifts her with perception, not so she can judge, but so she can preserve what he's entrusted to her. There are moments when her heart wants to hold on, but God pulls her out. Have you ever had someone disappear from your life without warning? No fight, no long explanation, just gone. That was God. You didn't lose them. You were rescued. When you are chosen, heaven will remove things before hell has the chance to infect them. This kind of woman doesn't fall for empty promises. You can't lure her with sweet, sounding distractions, because she is filled with something deeper, divine substance. Her value isn't built on attention, it's rooted in assignment. You can't seduce her away from her calling because she's in covenant with God. She isn't swayed by the applause of people. She is anchored in the approval of heaven. Sometimes God will shake up her plans, not to punish her, but to keep her from falling into a trap, a missed meeting, a delayed flight, a sudden change of heart. What looked like disappointment was actually divine redirection. Because when a woman is under God's protection, even disruptions are blessings in disguise. There is a calm she carries, even in moments of separation. While others expect her to break down, she remains steady. When they ask how she's still smiling, she simply says, "God gave me peace." That's not weakness, it's spiritual warfare in action. It's proof that God's protection often comes in the form of supernatural rest. When people walk away, she doesn't chase them. She blesses them because she understands rejection is sometimes redirection. A woman like this is often misunderstood. People with hidden motives get frustrated because they cannot control her. They call her difficult, distant, or proud. But they don't see the cost she's paid to guard her spirit. She's not rude, she's careful. She's not cold, she's covered. There's a difference. The truth is, every betrayal that touched her only refined her. She doesn't carry bitterness. She carries wisdom. God didn't just protect her from harmful people. He used those experiences to sharpen her discernment. They tried to bury her, but God used the dirt to help her grow. If you are that woman, stay hidden in his presence. Stay tuned to his voice. Stay faithful to your assignments. Because when God is protecting you, it won't always feel comfortable. But it is always intentional. The ones who couldn't remain were never meant to walk the road with you. They were distractions sent to pull you away from destiny. A woman protected by God doesn't rely only on what people say. She's guided by what the Spirit reveals. She has a divine sensitivity that helps her discern the motives behind the words. Words can deceive, but spirits cannot hide from truth. While others get swept away by charm, charisma, and polished speech, she listens to the tone, the energy, the presence a person carries. She knows not everyone who smiles is sincere. Not every compliment comes from a clean heart. She has learned that the enemy rarely shows up in obvious ways. he often hides behind kind words and friendly faces. She's walked through enough deception to be unmoved by appearances. Her discernment has been shaped through pain, through prayer, and through process. God sharpened her spiritual ears so she can hear a lie buried inside a beautiful sentence. Her protection is not paranoia, it is spirit-led perception. She doesn't always confront or expose what she sees because protection isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet wisdom. She simply refuses to open her life to spirits carrying confusion, jealousy, manipulation, or pride. She knows that some people don't come to add to her journey, they come to derail it. So when she senses that something is wrong, even if everything looks perfect on paper, she listens to that nudge in her soul. That nudge is the Holy Spirit guarding her from entanglement. She may walk away without drama. She may create distance without an explanation, because she trusts the discernment God has placed in her. To others, she may seem distant or overly cautious, but in truth, she is simply walking under divine insight. Her calling is too valuable to allow just anyone close. When a woman is protected by God, her endings are not always loud. Sometimes connections fade, conversations grow shallow. Relationships that once felt close slowly drift apart. While others are confused, she feels an unexplainable peace in the letting go. That's not random, it's divine intervention. God has a way of moving people out of your life without giving you an explanation when their presence begins to threaten your destiny. She doesn't always get the reason, but she receives something even better: release. That release is proof that God saw what she could not see. She isn't bitter and she isn't angry. In fact, she's calmer than she ever expected because the absence didn't bring confusion. It brought clarity. That's how she knows it was God. When he removes someone, he doesn't leave her with doubt. Instead, he replaces confusion with confirmation. There's no urge to chase, no need to beg for closure. She understands that divine protection often looks like unanswered calls, ignored messages, and unexplained silence. And instead of forcing something that no longer flows, she lets go. She trusts that her steps are guided by the Lord, and she knows that letting go is often the doorway to being preserved. This woman has learned to welcome the quiet exits. She's seen how God uses separation to save her from sabotage. She's experienced the grace that comes when heaven cuts off certain connections before they can turn into spiritual distractions. What some people would call rejection, she calls redirection. She understands that not every loss leaves a wound. Some losses give her wings, and these wings lift her higher, freer, and more focused than she's ever been. The peace she feels is deep. It's not just natural, it's supernatural. It's the kind of peace that passes all understanding. And while others may wonder how she can remain so calm, after losing someone she once cared for, she knows in her spirit that she didn't truly lose them. God simply moved them to protect what he is building within her. A woman who is covered by God cannot be easily shaken by sweet words or emotional tricks. Her identity isn't rooted in the approval of people, but in the assurance of who she is in Christ. She's grown past the need for constant affirmation from others because she has already been affirmed by her Creator. Compliments don't confuse her, and attention doesn't distract her. She welcomes kindness, but she is not controlled by it. She has seen how flattery can be used as a trap, how some use praise as bait, not as truth. Because of that, she doesn't fall apart at the sound of admiration. Instead, she discerns the spirit behind the words. This woman has faced manipulation disguised as love. She has been targeted by those who saw her light and tried to dim it with smooth talk and empty promises. But through her journey, God has taught her that not all kindness comes from a pure heart, and not all attention is honest. So now, she listens with her spirit before she listens with her ears. She values character over charisma. She watches for consistency over compliments. She looks for fruit, not flattery. She isn't easily impressed because her soul is not empty. She is already full of purpose, full of wisdom, and full of discernment. When someone tries to sway her with guilt, control, or praise, she sees it clearly for what it is, a distraction from her destiny. She doesn't get pulled into emotional tug of wars. She doesn't argue to prove her worth. Instead, she stands in quiet strength, unmoved. The enemy cannot enter a heart that is already full of God's affirmation. Her security in the Lord makes her immune to manipulation. She no longer seeks validation. She walks in revelation. That is the mark of a woman defended by heaven. A woman protected by God often notices her plans being disrupted, not by mistake, but by divine design. Things she thought would work out suddenly fall apart. Meetings are canceled, opportunities disappear, and doors close without warning. While others may see these interruptions as setbacks, she begins to recognize them as shields. God blocks what she cannot see. He will even frustrate her own plans when they're leading her towards something dangerous. In the moment, it may feel like confusion. But in the spirit, it's preservation. God is not just guiding her steps. He is guarding her path. She may prepare for something with all her heart, only to feel a deep, unshakable resistance when it's time to move forward. And instead of forcing her way through, she pauses. She's learned that when God interrupts her plans, it's to redirect her. Divine interruptions are not signs of failure. They are signs of His protection. The timing wasn't wrong. It was holy. That person didn't stay. Not because she wasn't enough, but because they were never assigned to her journey. That door didn't open, not because she lacked favor, but because the place behind it wasn't safe. This woman is sensitive to the pauses God gives her. She's learned to trust that discomfort can be a warning, not just an inconvenience. God will use the unsettled feeling in her heart to speak louder than any voice around her. So when things don't go her way, she leans in. She prays, she listens, and she waits. She knows that divine disruption is heaven's way of saying, not here, not now, not with them. Her protection isn't just in what God gives, it's also in what He withholds. He keeps back what was never meant to build her. He delays what would have destroyed her, and in every disruption, He's saving her from deception. When a woman is covered by God, she carries a peace that truly surpasses all understanding, especially when it's time to walk away. She doesn't always get closure. She doesn't always get apologies, but she receives something better, divine peace. It's the kind of peace that settles in her spirit, even when everything around her feels uncertain. She may step away from friendships, relationships, places or opportunities that once meant everything to her, yet she does so without fear. She walks away with calm assurance because she knows that when God says, leave, obedience is the safest place she can be. This peace doesn't come from emotion. It comes from revelation. She has learned to trust the still, small voice inside her more than the noise outside of her. And when that voice says, it's time to go, she doesn't fight it. She doesn't cling to what her spirit has already released. She doesn't beg to stay where her soul no longer breathes. She walks away knowing she is fully covered, fully kept, and fully loved by the one who holds her destiny in His hands. She doesn't waste time trying to convince anyone to recognize her worth. She simply follows the path of peace. That peace is her confirmation. That peace is her permission. That peace is her protection. There was a season when walking away felt like losing something, but now it feels like finding her alignment. She has learned that peace is the language of the Holy Spirit, and if a place, a person, or a path steals her peace, it's not from God. So she no longer waits for things to break before letting them go. She leaves before disrespect becomes a habit, not out of pride, but out of wisdom, not in anger, but in wholeness. To others, her silence might look cold, but to her, It's sacred. It's how she honors what God has spoken deep in her heart. She doesn't need drama. She doesn't need a crowd. All she needs is confirmation from heaven. And once she receives that, her steps are steady and her heart is still. A woman under God's protection is not easily understood by people who come with hidden motives. She walks with quiet strength, and that very strength unsettles those who can't control her. She sets her boundaries without apology, and those who seek to manipulate call her difficult. But she's not difficult, she's discerning. She's not arrogant, she's aware. Because she refuses to bow to unhealthy demands, people with wrong intentions label her as proud, cold, or stubborn. But what they call pride, heaven calls protection. She no longer lives for the approval of people. She lives by the assignment God has given her. She doesn't hand out access to her emotions, her time, or her spirit carelessly. She knows her worth. She knows her calling. And because of that, she becomes a threat to anyone who feeds on control or chaos. When she doesn't respond in the way they expect, they accuse her of being too much or too distant. But she's not acting from emotion. She's moving with intention. She's protecting the oil she carries. Often, the ones who misunderstand her are the same ones who were never meant to walk closely with her. They came into her life wearing masks, charming on the surface, but manipulative underneath. When she refuses to be drawn in by their performance, when she sees beyond their act, they become offended. They call her hard-hearted, but the truth is she's spirit-led. She won't play emotional games because she knows how costly distractions can be. She no longer feels the need to explain herself. She lets her fruit do the speaking. She knows that those truly sent by God will respect her discernment instead of resenting it. She no longer shrinks herself to make others feel comfortable. Her clarity unsettles the inauthentic. And that is exactly why God continues to surround her, shield her, and set her apart. Her life is not for a show, it's for a purpose. A woman protected by God does not crumble under betrayal. She rises. Every time someone turns their back on her, lies about her, or leaves without reason, something holy happens inside her. She doesn't turn bitter, she grows wiser. She doesn't shrink back, she sharpens. Because betrayal, when placed in God's hands, becomes a tool for transformation. It may cut deep in the moment, but it can't touch her destiny. What was meant to break her only strengthens her. She's learned that betrayal often comes as a divine revelation. It uncovers what she couldn't see. It reveals what was hidden behind a mask of loyalty. And though the pain is real, she thanks God for it, because it showed her who was never meant to walk into the next chapter with her. God never wastes pain, and He never allows betrayal unless there is a blessing waiting on the other side. This woman has walked through the fire of disloyalty, and yet she doesn't come out smelling like smoke. She comes out shining with clarity. Each betrayal sharpens her discernment. She no longer trusts blindly. She studies the fruit, not just the words. She doesn't open her heart simply because someone shows interest. She waits for alignment. She knows the high price of misplaced trust, so she guards her gates. But don't mistake her caution for fear. She's not afraid to love. She simply refuses to love without wisdom. What the enemy tried to use to silence her, God used to make her voice stronger. What people thought would destroy her confidence only deepened her connection with Him. She doesn't just survive betrayal, she grows through it. She becomes more focused, more prayerful, more aware. Every time someone tries to crush her spirit, heaven pours in more strength, more peace, and more fire. She is a woman shaped by betrayal, but driven by purpose. A woman protected by God is never ordinary. She is chosen, covered, and called. She carries a presence that can't be explained, a peace that can't be shaken, and a power that can't be manipulated. She may be misunderstood, abandoned, or betrayed, but she will never be destroyed. Every disruption becomes her direction. Every loss becomes her lesson. Every rejection becomes her redirection. She's not guarded by walls. She's guarded by wisdom. She's not ruled by her emotions. She's guided by revelation. This woman doesn't chase people, she chases purpose. She doesn't fear being alone because she's never without the presence of God. Heaven fights for her even in battles she doesn't realize she's in. God surrounds her, not because she's flawless, but because she's positioned for greatness, for influence, and for legacy. So let the world misunderstand her. Let the wrong ones leave. Let the doors close. Because what's on her life can't be stopped by loss, delay, or deception. She's not just surviving, she's rising. And as long as she walks in obedience, no weapon formed against her will succeed. She is God's investment on this earth. And heaven will always protect what it plants with purpose.